I recently had a few days holiday in Suffolk at my summer location, and I had a ride around on my electric bike exploring the local area, particularly interested in the renovation of an old railway line that hasn't been used for many years. The track was laid in 1920, but it's now been renovated for carrying equipment to the new Sizewell power station project. Anyway, it gave me the opportunity of testing out a new antenna, the Moonraker MD-3500, which is basically a portable antenna that covers 80 metres through to 10 metres. On paper it looked quite promising, so I wondered how it would work out in practice. I want to show you an antenna that is new to me. It's a new portable antenna. It can be used for static mobile because it will fit onto a standard mobile mount. Would you believe that this antenna in here will cover from 6 metres through to 80 metres? And it's quite efficient actually. Let me just show you. This is not the case for the antenna. This is actually a buddy hole case, but right. There we are. That's the antenna. Not very impressive, is it really? Just something like that. Not very large at all. First of all, this telescopes up and down so you can resonate the antenna. And this is a telescopic whip. It seems to be nicely made. It's got calibration points there so that you can roughly set it to the approximate setting for the particular band that you want to operate on. And the whip, well, it's a telescopic whip. Let me show you how it all goes together. I'll step back here. You'll get some idea of the size of this antenna. There we are, PL259 there. Let's telescope it out. There's a lot of it. There we are, that's on the ground. I'm just over 6 foot, so that must be about 7.5 feet. It's probably around about 2 and a bit metres tall. That means to say that it's very competitively sized compared with some of the fixed frequency whips, the helical wound whips. So it shows some promise. An antenna of that size, for 20 metres, it's probably about an 1/8 wave. Which is not bad actually. An 1/8 wave is still fairly efficient, even better on the higher bands. Actually, this antenna also covers 80 metres, would you believe? I'll check that out later on. Right, it's mounted on my hatch mount on the van here. There we are. If I just pan up here, you'll see that it's quite impressive actually. It's quite a tall antenna, full of promise I would say, but there's only one way to test it. That's to put it on the air. But first of all we've got to resonate it. Let's talk a bit about the hatch mount that is very popular these days because it's one of the easiest places to put on a car. Now I haven't got a car, I've got a van, but the same principle applies. You put the mount on the edge of the hatch and it's very easy to fit and it's very firm. And some little tiny screws behind that just pierce the paintwork inside of the hatch, just like pinpricks, but it's enough to make an earth connection. Now it's the earth connection really that we're concerned about. The hatch mount relies initially on the metalwork of the hatch, and There's a fair bit of it, but not as much as we'd like. We'd like to really drill a hole in the middle of the roof. Well, perhaps some of us would and some of us wouldn't. Well, on this particular van, it's got a fiberglass roof, so that's out of the question. But the thing is that although the metallic connection, the DC connection between the hatch and the rest of the car body, which primarily will be metal, is debatable. We're not quite sure what the connection is. It could be fairly good, it could be fairly bad. The only thing I would say is that as we get lower in frequency, we get less metal than we should have. And my guess is that when I do some measurements on this antenna, probably 40 metres will be okay. I suspect that on 80 metres, we really won't have enough metal to get a decent match, but we shall see. Anyway, let me show you first of all how I tune this antenna. Now, one thing I always do is I always install a line isolator. This really should be a bit tighter and secured with tie wraps, but I put it fairly near the feed point, in other words the point where the hatch mount is mounted, and this line isolator prevents you getting all sorts of nonsense VSWR readings. It really is absolutely essential if you want to make sense of the antenna tuning and so forth. Now, one of the ways that you can get the basic resonance of the antenna, not spot on, if you've got a QRP rig that's portable like this is the KX2, I'll turn the volume up so you can hear it. And if I move this antenna, you'll hear the noise go down, you'll hear it peak as we go up the other side of resonance. So as I move this, you can hear, and that's pretty close actually, just by tuning that antenna. So it shows it's doing the job. But to get spot on, we need to actually do a VSWR measurement. Now, although the KX2 will measure VSWR, the problem is that as I've got it set up at the moment, the antenna tuner unit is permanently in circuit, and you don't want an ATU in circuit when you're checking VSWR for resonance with the antenna. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my antenna analyzer, my Rig Expert antenna analyzer. And then what I do with the antenna analyzer is I adjust this antenna until I get the point of resonance. Now you can't pick this up on the screen because of the sunlight and so forth, but I will show you a close-up of the resonance I'm getting on 20 metres. Let's do a scan now for 20 metres. There you are, that's pretty good, that's almost 1 to 1. I wanted to check the 40 metre band, so I fired up the KX2 on 40, but first of all thought I'd check the VSWR, and as you can see it's 2 to 1, which is not very good really. I expected something better than 2 to 1, and I'll come back to this a bit later in the video, but of course as the KX2 has got an internal antenna matching unit, I had no problem in delivering power to the antenna. As a quick test on the 40 metre VSWR 2 to 1 issue, I put my standard 40 metre diamond antenna on the mount and I got exactly the same reading. So the antenna itself, there's nothing wrong with the antenna, but I'll cover this a bit later in the video. As a final check, I mounted the antenna on the family car, which has a metal roof, and as you can see I got the VSWR down to about 1.64 on 40 metres, so it does prove that if you've got a bit more metal around it you get a lower VSWR, and that was more in line with what I expected, particularly as I was only using a smallish mag mount. If you had a three-legged mag mount I think you'd get quite a good VSWR on 40 metres. Now in order to cover the 80 metre band we have this additional coil which sits on top of the main tuning coil, and that simply screws into there. So we've now got Still got the variable tuning control, but we've got this coil to load it up onto 80 meters, and then we attach the whip back onto the antenna and install it on the vehicle. And there we are, the antenna back on the vehicle with the 80 meter resonator on the top. It's an impressive looking antenna. Now I'm going to do the noise test again on 80 meters. Hope you can hear this. I think you can hear that. Change hands. I think you can hear that resonating on 80 meters. Not sure what the efficiency is like, but it does resonate on 80 meters, albeit the SWR is not brilliant, but you know, we're getting there. Yes, on 80 meters I couldn't get better than 2 to 1, although that didn't surprise me, but I knew that the KX2 would probably match a 2 to 1 VSWR on 80 meters, so I decided to try and see if I could get any reports from reverse beacon by sending out CWCQs on 80 meters. Well, I'll put the beacon report up on the screen here, and as you can see I got 2 reports over 150 miles away, and this was in broad daylight, so that was quite encouraging, running a power of 10 watts. So I think, yeah, 80 meters is possible. You either need a bit more metal under the antenna, or you need an internal matching unit so you can cope with that 2 to 1 VSWR. And of course the bandwidth is going to be quite narrow, but you expect that on 80 meters. There was a Spanish contest on, so I thought I'd try my hand at a few contacts on 20 meters. Now, I didn't have a microphone with me, but fortunately the KX2 has got a built-in microphone. So I spoke fairly closely to the KX2 in order to make a few contacts. Here's a sample of a few of the contacts. The QSL, you are 59003, 59003, QSL. Yeah, Golf 3, Oscar Juliet Victor, G30JV.
Okay, Golf 3, Oscar Juliet Victor, many thanks, 559, and your number is 107.
QSL, you're 59004, 59004, QSL.
004, many thanks. 59260.
QSL from Golf 3, Oscar Juliet Victor, 59005, 59005, QSL.
Bravo 5, QSL, thank you. Ocean Germany 3, Bravo. 59296.
Yeah, QSL, you are 59007, 59007, 73.
73, Yankee Lima 783.
I tested the antenna on 40 meters and I got a VSWR of 2 to 1. Now, that is probably a little bit disappointing, but not impossible to match, particularly if you've got an internal matching unit. Well, on 80 meters, where I expected it to be even worse, it was the same, 2 to 1. Again, it's not the best, but it's matchable, particularly if you've got an internal antenna matching unit. Now, on the higher bands, on 20, 15, 10 and walk bands, it was not a problem. So why is the VSWR deteriorating? Well, I think there are 2 reasons. First of all, the fact that you're using a hatch mount means to say that you're not surrounding it by as much metal as you would if you mounted it in the centre of the roof of the car. But if, like me, you've got a fiberglass roof, you haven't got much of an option. But also, as you lower the frequency of the antenna, so the antenna becomes physically shorter compared with a full-size quarter wave, and so the impedance, the feed impedance, will drop. And I think basically it's a drop in the feed impedance that's caused the problem. But as soon as I plugged the KX2 in, which I've been using recently, the antenna matching unit in there matched it okay. Now, I just emphasise that that doesn't change the VSWR on the coax, but it does mean to say that the transceiver will deliver full power into the feeder cable. And really and truly, with a 2 to 1 VSWR, you're losing very little. The drop in signal strength is minimal. So it's really not noticeable, provided that you've got a means of matching that VSWR into your transceiver via an internal matching unit, or an external matching unit. You might have an external matching unit. Provided you can match that, then it works okay. And I was particularly surprised on 80 metres. I wouldn't have been surprised if I got nothing on 80 metres, but I was surprised. Now, this test I did on 80 metres was at 8:30 in the evening, but we're in the middle of the summer here. We've just gone past the longest day. So basically it was daytime conditions, which are certainly not the best at 80 metres. The downside on 80 metres, you're going to get very narrow bandwidth, which you would expect. But if you can tolerate the narrow bandwidth, then I think you can expect to have a few contacts on 80 metres. So what's the conclusion with this antenna? Well, the thing that really impressed me was the fact that it folds up into such a very, very small package. You could almost carry it in your pocket. It certainly would fit into the glove box. And so it doesn't take up any room at all. I was very impressed with the way it tuned. There was no glitches when I was adjusting the coil up and down. I didn't notice any glitches at all. It seemed to be pretty smooth. So again, the tuning of it is easy. It's got a standard PL259 connection, so that means to say it will sit into most mobile hatch mount, or most mobile systems that have got an SO239. In fact, it should be fine. And as regards power handling, they claim 100 watts, and I have no doubt that it will easily handle 100 watts. Tuning is very easy. I found that if I used a antenna analyzer, it was very easy. I also found that I could get very close to resonance by adjusting the coil up and down and listening to the noise on the receiver. That took me very close to the optimum anyway, so that was good. Now, I would say that this antenna is certainly not a mobile antenna for mobile on the move, because that telescopic whip is very quickly going to get bent, and I don't think it's strong enough to stand 60 or 70 mile an hour drives down the motorway. I don't think it was ever intended to be used on the move, but for static mobile, different ball game. I think it's very, very good. The length is really reasonable. It's just over 2 meters tall. It means to say that it's going to be fairly efficient. It's probably going to be similar to a lot of other mobile antennas at the same sort of length. Now, one of the things that I also liked was the fact that you've got markings on the coil, and although you can't be absolutely spot on with those markings, it will take you very close to where you noted the markings for your previous operation. In other words, if you resonate it on 20 meters, you make a note of the markings. If you adjust that antenna again to those markings, you'll be very, very close to resonance. So that means to say it's very easy. Price-wise, it's very competitive. If you think that you can cover, how many bands? You can cover 8 bands, I think it is. Let's count it up. You can 10, 12, 15, 18 or 17 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters, 40 meters, 80 meters. Yeah, that's 8 bands. Also, of course, I missed out the 60 megahertz band. If you operate on that band, it would work well. And as I say, I think that it's a very, very efficient antenna for what you'll pay for and what you get. Something that sort of will go into your pocket or into the glove box. It's very small. I've really taken with it. Oh, is it waterproof? Well, probably yes and no. I think a shower of rain is not going to damage it. I would advise that you dry the whip off before you telescope it back in. But I don't think a bit of moisture is going to upset it at all. I haven't had a chance to test it out with moisture because we're stuck in a bit of a heat wave at the moment, but I think probably it'll be okay. So as usual, thank you for your support on this channel. It's much appreciated. Don't forget that we carry a wide range of stock. We've got the largest warehouse facility now in the UK for ham radio equipment, and it's highly likely that what you want we've got, and we offer very, very rapid shipment. If you can get the order into us by about 2 o'clock, we'll get it off to you the same day, and it should arrive for the following day, at the latest 2 days. But we try and get a 24-hour delivery if at all possible. If you enjoy this channel, don't forget to subscribe. That helps us know that we're in the right ballpark and we're providing videos that you enjoy. I personally enjoy doing these videos because I can pass on some of the knowledge that I've gained over rather a long time, I used to add. But anyway, thank you for your support, and until we meet again, which will be in the next video, thank you for all that you've done in supporting this video channel. Bye for now.